welcome back to my channel. Welcome to Nina's Chelsea Corner. If you're new around here, Chelsea have announced, of course, ENZO MARESCA on a 5-year deal after it's obviously been known the last few days, but the announcement took a little longer than we expected. But the club has announced it. ENZO is due to start work in July. It feels like deja vu once again. Fast forward a year later, a new coach is to take over in July, take over in pre-season, get on with transfers, get to know the team, and we are starting all over again. But it's exciting because obviously the women's team have also got a new coach in the name of Sonia Bompastor, who has been exceptional at Lyon. She is a winner as a player, as a manager. She is exactly a coach that Chelsea needs. And in terms of Emma Hayes being replaced, she's irreplaceable, isn't she? Like, we all feared for who would take over after her, but I think Sonia is such a fitting prospect, someone to be an actual worthy successor of what Emma Hayes has left for her to take over in terms of squad, in terms of relationships, in terms of backbone, spine, and everything. Just such a good foundation, and I think she can even elevate us to the next level. We have been so dominant in the WSL, but she has something else to her name, and that is exactly the Champions League, which we have been after for a while now. She's beaten the Giants, she's beaten the Barcelonas that we have struggled to, as we did this year, as we have in the past. She is literally the one that took Lyon to new heights. It wasn't always a difficult job for her because she took over a pretty good squad and she's only just gone and done wonders with it. But yeah, it's exciting. I think I'm more excited about her taking over than I am with ENZO, because it just seems as we are going through more change, more transition. But when has there not been change at Chelsea, guys? It's basically our middle name, isn't it? Chelsea Change Football Club. But yeah, there's a lot to get into. I've obviously taken a break, and apologies for that. Obviously, I'm back now. We are back on track. Thank you so much to all of you who wished me well. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be back, guys. As you can see, I obviously got a shirt, and I'll let you guys guess who I've got on the back. It's not really $1 million question, and it's not that surprising, but yeah, I'm sure you guys can figure it out. But just comment down below who you think it is I have on the back. But yeah, guys, I'm keen to know your thoughts on Chelsea's new appointments. How excited are you? And like I said, it feels like we've been here again. So in terms of the ENZO MARESCA appointment, there's not that much to say, because again, we talked about Pochettino's arrival and how he presented himself in that interview, how he, gave us all these big hopes and dreams and whatnot. But, Pochettino is now history. We're not going to dwell on it, not going to live in the past, guys. There's nothing else we can do now than just back and trust that this is the right appointment. Oh God, guys, literally, like, what do we even have to think now? We just have to trust that this is the right decision, and if it isn't, then I truly don't know where to from here. But I just choose to be optimistic. But again, I'm not overly excited. I'm not over the moon. I will judge for what I see. Maybe not even be rash making judgments over pre-season, because that's one thing I did last season with Pochettino and the way that we played when we were away on tour, and some of the playing styles that we had unfolding. There's been some exciting things, but yeah, it was a bit ambiguous in terms of who our plan B was when Pochettino and the club, when the owners parted ways with Pochettino. It seemed like we, had a lot of fingers in different pies, looking in the Championship, looking in the Premier League, but all the names that were circling around just didn't really give you that kind of, optimism that you kind of wished a club like Chelsea would be going for. But ENZO MARESCA is the one. He's on a 5-year deal. Does remind you of someone else that was given a 5-year deal not long ago, and that failed miserably. But yeah, ENZO seems to be a coach that has a very certain style of play. A lot of people obviously link him to Pep Guardiola because he's been obviously a part of that training team. There's been a few things that he's learned under Pep, which he has implemented in his playing style. He managed to win Leicester the championship, getting them back into the Premier League, and again in terms of squad that he inherited and what Leicester excuse me, had already started to do, there wasn't too much to change, but he had this one kind of way of playing, and that's how he managed to see them through. So it looks like that's what's impressed. One full season in English football, now he's going to the top flight, literally. There's been a lot of managers now in this day and age that kind of have one, you know, really good season or two, and then they're kind of just taken to that next level immediately, and it's almost like a fall from these heights. But I hope that that's not going to be the case for Enzo. I hope he can actually build. It won't be so bad for Chelsea to have some structure and some continuity now that we've had a lot of the players settled down. We have learned sort of strengths and weaknesses, and obviously Enzo arrived saying he has really studied and kind of looked at each player. I mean, of course you have. You're not going to turn up wanting a job at Chelsea if you haven't studied the players and you don't know what they're about, who plays where, who fits where. And the fact that he plays a lot of possession-based football, very dominant, that's another thing that Chelsea aren't going to mind, having a bit of structure, playing the ball out the back. Obviously, he's got some very key positions. One that has, for me, stood out, he does talk a lot about the goalkeeper and how the goalkeeper plays out the back. And we've had kind of a lot of instability with our goalkeeper. We obviously brought in Robert Sanchez from Brighton and Petrovic as well from MLS, but they both came in as number 2 keepers because, you know, Kepa left all of a sudden. Robert Sanchez came in to be Kepa's number 2, but he left for Madrid, and then instantly, because Robert Sanchez was signed first, it kind of became a case that he was number 1, Petrovic was number 2. But they both essentially came in to be backup keepers. What we saw though is that Robert Sanchez had a bit of a tough start. People were a bit unsure, a bit uncertain, and then when he got injured, Petrovic, we saw him play. We thought that we would wait until obviously January when we started our other domestic cup run, but he was actually given a chance a lot sooner, and he impressed to a point where I said, yeah, let Petrovic be number 1 keeper, because I mean, essentially at the end of the day, they both came in to fight for that place, didn't they, really? But again, there's still a lot of weaknesses in both of their games. You're not too sure, you know, they're not those kind of $1 million names where you look at them as goalkeepers and you think, yeah, you know, everyone's fighting for them. It's not quite the case, and we'll see obviously with transfer business and stuff, there are lots of other areas obviously that Chelsea will be looking to address, but I think that's going to be a key kind of indication of how Enzo is going to choose to play with Chelsea moving on this season. Obviously pre-season will be a really key element to that. Until he works things out. But yeah, like I said, with Pochettino, there's been a lot of freestyling. There has been a lot of accommodating for certain players, you know, switching roles, playing them out of position, and doing things that have just led to a series of just constant inconsistencies. That's not even a word. Just a series of inconsistency. Even that didn't make sense. You guys get what I mean. And there's just always been chopping, changing. There's been a lack of clarity with who plays where. But I think with Enzo's system, there might be a little bit more solidity there. Now that we have a lot of our injuries returning as well, in the names of players like Nkunku, Lavias, who we never saw, even Carney Chukwuemeka, who spent a lot of the time injured. There's going to be an interesting choice there to make as well. And it'll be interesting to see if he can elevate us, take us to that next level. Now, I'm sure there is a unanimous agreement among the club, and I'm sure that they've spoken about it, obviously with Enzo, that essentially the ultimate goal now is top 4, right? You know, that's basically what Pochettino underperformed and underachieved with, even though he arguably miraculously kind of got us into top 6, though that looked impossible in March. But, you know, that was never the goal. We always wanted to play Champions League football again, eventually. And now, you know, we're battling for another European trophy that we've never been in. So that's taken a whole different whirlwind. But again, there's a goal here, and I think that they're believing that Enzo is going to be this guy. But again, guys, it's all easy to sell a dream. It's all easy to say, you know, I read their words, and, you know, obviously the sporting directors who have made these decisions say that, you know, he's this coach that understands the vision and knows where we need to be and all of that, but we've heard it before, so I'm not going to read too much into those words. They know very, very well that if they get this appointment wrong, then things will turn south quickly. There's been a lot of a lack of faith in the ownership already with how much change has gone on in the last couple of years, and I don't think they're going to do themselves any favours if they get another appointment wrong, because how many coaches? And it's always clear that when we try and look for the next one, there's never really a set plan B. It's kind of like assess the options, test the waters, see what's out there, and then kind of pick from there. But yeah, I think it could be a breath of fresh air. I'm keen to see how he gets on. Like I said, guys, you obviously, whoever watched my live stream with my thoughts on Poch, in the moment it just didn't make sense, because I just do think that Chelsea finally do need some stability. And essentially what will happen is if Chelsea doesn't get top 4 next season, does that mean we're on the lookout for another manager? Does he even last a full season, guys? That's another thing that we have to really look into. And obviously, yes, he is here for this. He's been handed this lengthy contract and kind of been almost invited to believe that this is still a process, and that, we are still looking long term. We have signed these players that he kind of needs to use, right? We know that he's not going to have that much agency in terms of transfers. I'm sure he kind of will have a say, but in terms of what we have is kind of what we're going to want to use. And this is where I bring in someone like Marc Cucurella, because we brought him in for, what was it, 65 million, and his start to life at Chelsea was a bit underwhelming. This, transfer that we brought in from Brighton that we were so set to have, one that even Pep Guardiola fought quite hard to bring into Manchester City as well, which tells you again there's a player in him, but it was a tough start for him. He's a player that's divided a lot of divided opinion among the fan base. But what we saw from Cucurella towards the latter stages of the season, specifically when Pochettino started to invert him, was a very different Cucurella. And I think that's something that Enzo might push. And in all honesty, it's not going to be such a bad thing, because we still need to actually flesh out Marc Cucurella's worth in terms of price tag, what we brought him in for, especially when our left back role is one that lacks depth. Ben Chilwell is in and out of injury. He's no longer that reliable left back that you know him to be, and that player that was so important to us in our Champions League campaign when we won it. And things change, and that's not to say that Ben Chilwell doesn't have a place in Chelsea. I'm not rushing to that decision. I'm just saying that there is a lot of uncertainty around his fitness levels, and fullbacks are going to be really important, of course, to Enzo's game. So that is just a cause for concern there, and we might see Cucurella become this very solid left back. Who knows, it might be an area that we will address, because we equally on the right hand side, you've now got Reece James, who is back and hopefully going to stay fit. You've got Malo Gusto, someone that has been progressing and just growing by the day. Imagine with a bit more structure and an actual game plan what he could be like as a player. So there are still some exciting things to see. You've got someone like Levi Colwill who could be utilised as well. Another player that was played out of position, that was unlucky with injuries and whatnot. But there are actually some exciting things that can be done in terms of the players we have, and we know very well, guys, that we must actually try and get something out of them. It's been difficult. It was a difficult season for Chelsea. I mean, we thought the previous one was bad. This one was just, difficult and complicated in its own ways. Somehow, made it to Wembley twice. I don't, in my mind, hate last season just because I have good memories from it, but we all know that it was far from what it needed to be and what we envisioned Pochettino to do with it. But like I said, he's in the past, guys, so we will not be mentioning his name anymore. New Chelsea managers, obviously Emma leaving and Pochettino leaving, are two completely different things in terms of how the fan base has accepted them, really, how they've received them, and the reception has been utterly, totally different. A lot of fans wanted Poch out pretty much in December. So very, very different feelings, but exciting futures nevertheless. I always thought that the amount of chaos and uncertainty that's gone through the men's team will eventually have caught up with the women's team, but I hope that's not the case, because we actually have a winner manager coming in as well in the name of Sonia. A lot more experience and a lot more European pedigree as well, if you like to say that. So it will be interesting. I think she's got a tough job as well, because obviously we've seen that Man City have become challengers, as they did push us until the very end, to a point where we almost thought we lost the WSL this year. Arsenal as well tested us at times last season, so you're seeing a lot more competition now. It will be interesting to see how she copes. Our team obviously will go through more transition, but yeah, guys, I'm interested to know your thoughts on the two appointments. Obviously, comment your thoughts down below, like this video if you've enjoyed it, and if you are new here on the channel, please subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. And yeah, I hope you guys are all doing well. Obviously, we'll be keeping an eye on the transfers that will be dropping. I will let you know when I'm doing my next live stream. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.